Void Linux is one of those distributions that quietly earns respect without chasing attention. In a Linux world where many projects compete on branding, desktop polish, or corporate backing, Void takes a very different approach. It focuses on simplicity, performance, independence, and technical elegance. In 2026, when most mainstream distributions have doubled down on heavy frameworks, telemetry debates, and increasingly complex system layers, Void Linux continues to stand out by doing it exceptionally well. If you have ever wondered what makes Void Linux special, why people praise its speed, or why the phrase system-free still matters, this deep dive is for you. To understand Void Linux, you have to start with its philosophy. Void was created as an independent distribution from scratch. It is not based on Debian, Arch, Fedora, or any other major distribution. That alone is rare. Most Linux distributions are derivatives built on top of an existing base. Void's developers chose the harder path, building their own package manager, their own repository infrastructure, and their own system design choices from the ground up. This independence gives Void a unique identity. It doesn't inherit decisions from upstream distributions unless it explicitly chooses to. One of the most defining features of Void Linux is that it does not use systemd. In 2026, systemd has become the default init system for almost every major distribution. It handles startup services, logging, networking components, timers, device management, and much more. Supporters argue that systemd unifies and modernizes Linux. Critics argue that it centralizes too much control and makes the system more complex and less modular. Void takes a different path by using Runit as its init system. Runit is small, simple, and extremely fast. Instead of a large, integrated suite of components, Runit focuses on one job: starting and supervising services. Services in Void are managed through straightforward directories and scripts. If you want to enable a service, you create a symbolic link. If you want to disable it, you remove that link. There are no complicated dependency graphs or opaque service states. The result is a boot process that feels transparent. When Void boots, it does so quickly and predictably, without layers of abstraction hiding what is happening. This simplicity is not just philosophical. It has practical performance benefits. On modest hardware, Void Linux feels snappy in a way that surprises many users. Part of that comes from the absence of heavy background services. Part of it comes from the distribution's minimal base installation. When you install Void, you do not get a preloaded set of applications you might never use. You start with a lean core and build up only what you need. In 2026, when many systems feel bloated by default, Void's minimalism feels refreshing. Another core component that sets Void apart is its package manager, XBPS, which stands for X Binary Package System. Unlike many distributions that rely on established package managers like apt, DNF, or Pacman, Void created its own. XBs is written in C, designed to be fast, efficient, and straightforward. It supports binary packages as well as source-based builds through the Void packages collection. In everyday use, XBPS feels quick and responsive. Installing, updating, and removing packages is direct and clear. The output is readable, and the process rarely feels cluttered. In 2026, one of the biggest challenges for Linux distributions is maintaining up-to-date software without sacrificing stability. Void follows a rolling release model. This means there are no major version upgrades like Void 2025 or Void 2026. Instead, the system continuously receives updates. However, Void's rolling release approach is often described as stable rolling. Packages are tested before reaching the main repositories, and while you still get modern software, it doesn't feel chaotic. You avoid the long stagnation of fixed releases, but you also avoid the cutting-edge instability of some experimental rolling Void Linux also supports multiple architectures in a serious way. Beyond standard x86_64, Void offers support for ARM devices and even musl libc variants. This is another major differentiator. Most Linux distributions use glibc as their standard C library. Void gives users the option to run a musl-based system instead. Musl is known for being lightweight, simple, and more strictly standards compliant. For embedded systems, containers, or users who want an ultra-clean stack, the musl variant is extremely appealing. Having official support for both glibc and musl demonstrates Void's commitment to flexibility and technical purity. Let's talk about installation, because that is often where people decide whether a distribution is approachable. Void Linux does not hold your hand like beginner-focused distributions. Its installer is text-based and straightforward. It expects you to understand partitions, file systems, and basic system configuration. In 2026, many new Linux users are accustomed to graphical installers with automatic partitioning and friendly explanations. Void's approach can feel intimidating at first, but for those who want control, it is empowering. You decide your partition scheme, you choose your bootloader configuration, you select your packages. That sense of control continues after installation. Void does not impose a specific desktop environment. You can install XFCE, KDE Plasma, GNOME, or go entirely window manager based with something like i3, BSPWM, or Sway. Many Void users prefer tiling window managers or minimal desktop setups, aligning with the distribution's lean philosophy. But there is nothing preventing you from building a full-featured desktop. Void does not limit you. It simply does not predefine your choices. Performance in Void is not magic. It is the result of intentional design decisions. There are fewer background services running by default. There is no heavy init framework. The base system is small, even updates feel lighter. On older hardware, this can extend the usable life of machines that struggle under heavier systems. In developing regions, or for users repurposing aging laptops, this efficiency matters. Void can turn what feels like obsolete hardware into a responsive daily driver. Security is another area where Void's simplicity has advantages. A smaller system means a smaller attack surface. Fewer running daemons mean fewer potential vulnerabilities. The Runit supervision model ensures services that crash are restarted quickly, improving resilience. At the same time, Void supports modern security features like full disk encryption, secure boot configurations, and up-to-date kernels. It does not sacrifice modern capability for minimalism. Community is often overlooked when discussing technical distributions. Void's community is smaller than those of Ubuntu or Arch, but it is known for being knowledgeable and focused. The documentation is concise and practical. Instead of overwhelming new users with marketing language, it provides clear instructions. The IRC channels, forums, and online discussions tend to attract users who value technical clarity. In 2026, when many communities struggle with noise and fragmentation, Void's smaller, more concentrated user base can actually feel like a strength. The absence of systems is not just a technical footnote. For many users, it represents philosophical alignment. Linux historically embraced the Unix philosophy. Do one thing well. Systems consolidated many roles into one large project. Void's choice to stick with Runit reflects a commitment to modularity. If you prefer a logging system, you can choose one. If you want a different network manager, you can select it. Components are not tightly coupled into a single framework. This modularity means you understand your system better because it is not abstracted behind a monolithic layer. In 2026, containers and virtualization are common, even on personal desktops. Void works well in these environments because of its lightweight nature. Running Void inside a virtual machine consumes fewer resources than heavier distributions. For developers who spin up test environments frequently, this efficiency can save time and memory. The musl variant is especially interesting for container-based workflows, where smaller base images reduce storage and deployment size. There is also something psychologically satisfying about using Void Linux. When you build your system piece by piece, you feel ownership over it. You know which services are enabled. You know which packages are installed. When something breaks, troubleshooting often feels clearer because there are fewer hidden layers. This transparency encourages learning. Void is not just an operating system. For many users, it becomes an educational tool that deepens understanding of Linux fundamentals. Of course, Void Linux is not perfect. Its smaller community means fewer tutorials compared to mainstream distributions. Some proprietary software may not offer official support packages. Users sometimes need to adapt installation instructions intended for Debian or Arch. However, because Void is independent and cleanly designed, these adaptations are usually straightforward. And for many, the trade-off is worth it. In the broader Linux ecosystem of 2026, trends are moving toward immutable systems, atomic updates, and containerized desktops. Distributions experiment with read-only roots and image-based deployment. While these innovations are exciting, they also add layers of abstraction. Void stands almost as a counterbalance to that trend. It says you can still have a classic, transparent, rolling Linux system that is fast and reliable without turning your desktop into a managed appliance. Hardware compatibility in Void is generally strong thanks to its up-to-date kernels and active package maintenance. Wireless drivers, graphics stacks, and firmware packages are maintained in the repositories. Gamers can install modern graphics drivers and use platforms like Steam without unusual hurdles. While Void is minimal, it does not mean outdated. You still get current Mesa, recent kernels, and modern desktop environments. Another strength of Void Linux is its build infrastructure. The Void Packages collection allows users to build packages from source in a clean and reproducible way. This system is powerful for advanced users who want custom compile flags or need packages not yet in the repository. It reflects the distribution's hacker-friendly spirit. Instead of hiding complexity, Void gives you the tools to engage with it. Reliability is often discussed in abstract terms, but in Void it is experienced through predictability. System updates rarely surprise you with massive structural changes because there are fewer tightly integrated components. Upgrading one part of the system does not cascade into unexpected breakage elsewhere. Rolling release distributions sometimes get a reputation for instability, but Void's disciplined approach keeps things calm. Energy efficiency is another subtle benefit. On laptops, fewer background processes and lean services can translate into slightly better battery life. While not dramatic, every bit counts. In a world increasingly conscious of energy use, even small efficiencies matter. Customization is nearly limitless. Want a completely keyboard-driven workflow with a tiling window manager? Void supports it effortlessly. Prefer a full-featured graphical environment with all the visual effects? That works too, because Void does not pre-configure everything. You are free to design your workflow from the ground up. The learning curve can be steep for beginners, but that challenge is part of its appeal. Void rewards curiosity. It assumes you want to understand your system, rather than just consume it. For a YouTube channel like Linux Chronicle, Void represents a story about independence, control, and performance. It challenges the narrative that bigger and more integrated is always better. As 2026 continues to evolve the Linux landscape, Void Linux remains a reminder that minimalism is not about missing features, it is about intentional design. It is about removing unnecessary layers so the core shines through. It is about trusting users to make choices rather than forcing them into predefined structures. Void Linux stands out not because it is flashy, but because it is focused. It does not try to be everything to everyone. It serves users who value speed, clarity, and independence. In a world where operating systems increasingly feel like services controlled by corporations, Void feels like a system you truly own. If you are searching for a distribution that boots quickly, runs lightly, avoids systemed, supports multiple architectures including musl, offers a robust rolling release model, and gives you full control over your environment, Void Linux deserves serious consideration. It is not the loudest distribution in 2026. It does not have the biggest marketing budget. But for those who care about performance, modularity, and understanding how their system works, Void Linux continues to stand tall as one of the most technically elegant choices in the Linux ecosystem.